Today I'm going to show you how just with one simple change, you can make 5 years worth of patient revenue on the very first visit. My name is Ivan. I'm the owner of Newly Booked, and we help med spas scale across the US. And so just recently, I've had one of our top spas sell a package upfront. They clicked it upfront from a new patient, $9,100 on a service that only cost them $50, and the patient only has to come in for 3 quick sessions. And so today I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, what to look out for, and what you can expect. So here's the proof. I already told you about the one spa. They were out in Murrieta, California, which by the way is not like LA or San Francisco. That's a town that's really not too far away from the border. I remember when she first joined the program, she thought that no one would buy packages. It's Melly. She's selling 10K packages of body sculpting left and right. And so a lot of people have this misconception that, oh, their market can't afford these type of treatments, when in reality, it's just that what you're selling, or really how you're positioning your services, is not really what the patient is buying, right? So the patient isn't buying sessions. They're not walking into your spa hoping that you're gonna get a good deal on selling sessions. They don't want sessions. So if you don't believe me, I think most of y'all watching this have heard of Milan Laser or Laserway. And so these are private companies, so we don't know exactly. These are huge corporations, and reportedly combined, they do around $1.5 billion in sales, which is a crazy figure. And we probably all know that a majority of their revenue is made from laser hair removal. So if it's made from laser hair removal, then the question should be, okay, well, how much do they sell their most expensive package, which would be like full laser hair, right? Full body. Any guesses? When I typically ask this to spas, they think, okay, it's gonna be some crazy price. $4,000, right? $5,000 at the very most. So we've actually gone through their sales funnel, and it is $18,000. $18,000. I know some of you will watch and do laser hair removal, and I bet that if you sold laser hair removal for $18,000, I'm sure that would change your life. That would make everything so much easier. And so the secret as to how they're doing it is they position it as lifetime. When I first heard about this, I first thought, okay, well, we can't do this at my place, right? We can't do this for our spas. Lifetime, who would do lifetime, right? The service that we promote it's permanent. Well, how can you do lifetime? And then I got thinking more and more about it. And this came to me last December. It's April as I'm recording this. And I was sitting at one of my spas in Dallas, and that's when I realized the beauty of lifetime. And so that today, I'm gonna show you the beauty of all of it, and then also how we've been able to implement it inside of our spas and how you can do the same. And so the number one thing that people are concerned about when they think about lifetime is the fact that, oh my God, then I have to service this patient forever, and it's gonna be too expensive for me. And we're definitely gonna address that because it is something that is important, obviously, but I'm gonna tell you how you can really make it so that it costs you nothing or next to nothing, and actually you can make the cost become its own revenue profit center. Cool. So one quick term that I have to get across first is this term in business. There's actually two. One of them is called CAC, C-A-C, which stands for cost of acquisition. And the other one is called LTV, which is lifetime value. So lifetime value is not how much you make from the patient in the first visit or in the first 30 days. It's how much on average you make over the lifetime of the patient until they stop being a client of yours. Okay, so it's overall, it's lifetime. And so really when you're looking at business, it's really about how much does it cost for you to acquire a customer, right? And then how much do you make from that customer in general, like overall. And so where most businesses screw up, especially small businesses, is that they just focus on the here now, right? Okay, well, it's cost me $200 to get them to walk into the door. I'm only selling them $400, right? So I'm only making $200. Now, while it is super important, and this is what we really specialize in, you want to get a large multiple up front because then you have unlimited marketing budget, right? If you make a profit from acquiring new customers, then you can acquire as many customers as possible, right? But as you grow, the cost to acquire a customer is always going to go up. And so if you don't have a good system on the back to make predictably money from patients, right? And I'm not talking like an extra $100 or $500 or something like that. I'm talking thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on the back end. Then you're never going to win the long game because you just don't make enough per patient to actually grow sustainably. Cool. So that is where lifetime becomes insane. Now that we know what CAC and LTV is and how important both those things are, the cool thing about lifetime is that when you do sell a lifetime package for $7,500, $10,000, $18,000, what happens is how much do you make on average from your patients, do you think? Right? If you were to really think about it, and if you have the numbers, that's great, you can calculate it. How much do you make in lifetime value per patient? I think most spas would be ashamed to admit that. It's probably like $1,000, right? Obviously, you got patients that are paying you $5,000 or $8,000, but you got a lot of patients that are bringing that average down. And then if you take away Botox, where most spas are selling Botox at generally a loss, and if you take out all those, then all of a sudden it really goes down. So the cool thing about lifetime is that when you sell them a $7,000, $10,000, $18,000 package up front, you're making way more than what you would normally make from a patient. But not only that, you're making it on day one. And so it really flips the script of the unit economics and what you can do with it inside the spa. Like you guys can probably already imagine, right? How would my business change if I could be selling my body sculpting packages or my laser hair removal packages or my IPLs or my microneedlings, right? Or my Morpheus 8s. If I could, my T-shapes, whatever, my cryos, if I could sell that for $18,000 up front, that would solve all my problems. And so that's what we're going to go over. Now, how do you do it? All right. So you want to look at your most expensive package, like the packages that you love selling, right? The ones that get patients results, the ones that you're super excited about. And what you're going to want to do is, well, first of all, whatever it is that you sell, whatever that price point is. So our base price point for patients is 3.9K. You want to be increasing that 2x, 3x, or whatever. That is the price that you're going to be selling your lifetime for. Okay. And then you also are going to increase that price even further by another multiple of 3. And that is going to be what we call the price anchor. And you're going to be telling your patients that the lifetime package costs, let's say, $21,000, right? Or $40,000, which makes sense, right? Because it's for life. And how we get them to transition to actually buying the lifetime, and don't forget, these are new patients, is we tell them that we're doing a model call. And if they want to participate in the model call, then they can just get it for $7,500, right? And so we get so many patients that are like, oh yeah, I'd love to be on the model call. You also tie them to come in for the before and after, so it's a win-win. And that's how we get people converting to the $7,500. Now, if you really want to pour a lot of gasoline on this, I have a separate video about doing price anchors and price drops and all that type of stuff. If you really want to pour gasoline on this, then what you can do is you also make it contingent that the applicant model calls is by applying for, and we just don't even call it financing, we just call it the application. And this way, it becomes very easy to sell really approved, and then they only have to pay $300 a month. It's a no-brainer. So this is how we consistently get people to buy lifetime. Now, the other thing when it comes to the different packages tiers that you can do is you can have lifetime as being the premium. And then, so lifetime, just to be super clear, the problem that you're solving with lifetime is that now you're no longer talking about sessions, right? There's no sessions in the conversation. Lifetime is what you're selling is the peace of mind, what the patient is buying is the peace of mind that they never have to worry about this problem ever again, right? It doesn't matter if they get pregnant, if they have menopause. Every woman's always worried about those 10 pounds that come in and out, right? And so this is insurance against those 10 pounds. So you really have to change yours and your team's thought process when it comes to what you're actually selling, because all the med spas that, at least most of the med spas that we talk to, are selling commodities and they're not even real sessions. And if you're selling sessions, the only thing the person needs to do really is go on Groupon or go just look at the other local spas in your area. I'm sure there's a lot of them, and see what their per session pricing is, right? Because it's all commodity. And so the way you want to change your thought process around this is that it's not sessions anymore, it's insurance, okay? And insurance sells at a premium. And what are you insuring against? You're insuring against the fact that they're never gonna have to feel the way they feel right now, the reason why they walked into your door, ever again. So that is what you're selling. Now, a second tier package lower than that will be unlimited. And so unlimited is different than lifetime because unlimited stops at the moment that they achieve their goal. And then the baseline under that, the minimum pack, are 3 sessions, right? Or 10 sessions, whatever you're selling. So the cool thing is that, like, let's say you're doing IPLs, right? For example, like the person's not gonna need more than 3, maybe 4, right? But you can easily see how you can easily sell that as lifetime because the sunspots are gonna come back, right? Or if they don't wanna do lifetime, then you say, okay, cool, let's not do lifetime then, let's do unlimited. So we're gonna keep on treating you until all of your current sunspots are gone. Sound fair? Awesome. And you're gonna get so many people that be like, okay, well 7.5 or 10,000 was unreasonable, but 5,000, I can do 5,000, right? So it makes it easy. Then it's like, okay, cool, if you don't wanna do that, well then let's do what the before and after that you did, and we'll just do 3 sessions just like her. Sound fair enough? 3.9. Boom. So that's how now you can crescendo. So now instead of having your super expensive package being at 3.9, and then you have to, lower the price starting at 3.9, now you can lower the price starting at 7.5, 9,000, 10,000, right? And so you're gonna be surprised how much more money you can collect overall, even if you're closing the same amount of people. Cool. So who are you selling this to? Now, first things first, a little bonus. Most people don't know that Cherry has this pre-approval tool inside of it in the dashboard. So you've already worked with Cherry, that's great. And so in this pre-approval tool, just go into the dashboard and you can see, like you can just put in the patient information, like I think it's like their name, their phone number, and their address. And then you can see if Cherry finds them, it's like we have like a 40% hit rate. You can see what they get pre-approved for. And so this way you kind of know what package to sort of gun for because you already know what they're pre-approved for. So it's really, really nice. This way, like the worst feeling possible is when you sold a patient like a $2,000 package, you sort of like undersold them, and then they get approved for 10,000. Like, I don't know about you, but when that happens, that freaking breaks my heart. It's like, oh my God, we could have sold them a 10,000. We could have sold them our $10,000 package. And so that's something really cool that Cherry has. So this is how you can like pour gasoline on this. This is how we do it. We do this with every single appointment. We check to see what they're pre-approved for on Cherry. Now, having said that, who do you sell this to? The very first one, which is, I think, the most underlooked one, are actually the patients that don't need that much, right? We're in the med spa space, right? Let's be honest. So many patients come into the door that just have straight up body dysmorphia, right? Like we do double chin dissolver, and we have patients walking in the door that you talk on them on the phone, you show them before and afters, and they say, yeah, mine's really bad, blah, blah, blah. They come in and there's nothing there, right? There's barely anything there. And so what happens is the spas sell them like one session. Oh, there's barely any fat there, blah, blah. Why is she at the spa? She barely needs it. The reason why, now this is for fat loss in general, but really it's about anything in regards to this. When someone comes in for a treatment that, you treat patients that have a really severe case of this, and this patient comes in with barely anything, right? Why is this person coming here? The patients that walked into the door and it got really severe, it didn't get severe yesterday. It got pretty bad like 3 years ago. They started noticing it 6 years ago, right? It's been a while. And so by definition, for those patients, it's not a huge, it's a big problem, but it's not identity breaking, ego breaking of a problem, that level of a problem. But when someone comes in and they have a little bit, right? they have a little bit of a problem compared to what you're used to seeing. And they're there and they're like, look, I need to get this solved freaking yesterday. For them, it's a huge, like it's tied to their ego, this identity that they have, and they don't want to get rid of that. And so when I'm talking about, for example, we do fat reduction. So these are skinny women. For these skinny women in particular, right, being skinny is a big part of who they see themselves as. It's a big part of their ego, right? Let's be honest here. It is how these women consider themselves better than other women, right? It's the fact that they look good, right? Or the fact they're skinny. And so them losing that will be like fathomably horrible, be Armageddon, okay? Yes, this person might only need one session, but first of all, they don't care if it would take 3 sessions or 5 sessions, right? As long as it's gone. Obviously, the faster the better, but they will pay for 5 sessions. But it would be unethical for us to sell them 5 sessions, obviously, because they only need 1, right? Or maybe 2. So what you want to sell them is insurance, the peace of mind that they're never going to need to worry about this problem ever again. And that is worth $10,000. Does that make sense? So this is like, in terms of need, this is one of the best patients, right? So this is just a belief breaking. Now, obviously, the other really easy patients are the ones that are pre-approved for really high amounts, right? So if you're high income people, all the spas tell me, Ivan, I want high income people, when in reality, well, we've noticed, so we do like soft credit checks on our leads. We see what they're pre-approved for on Cherry. We see what they have on their Care Credit account before they even walk in. So we have a lot of financial data, and we see what the close rates are of all of our partner spas. And we can see that really the higher income people are actually significantly harder to close. And the reason why they're harder to close is because they are not interested in buying a commodity, right? They're not here to buy sessions. And so if you try to get them a deal on sessions, it's relatively difficult, right? Now I'm talking about cold traffic, right? Obviously, every spa that we get, they all tell us they're great at sales. And that's just because they're really good at selling to referrals, which, yeah, okay, I think like if you're bad at selling to referrals, you got a problem. So when you're talking about cold traffic, we see that spas have a really hard time selling to richer folk. And the reason being is because richer folk don't buy because of discounts. Richer folk buy because of value. So what do richer folk value? Is they want to buy something and then never have to worry about the problem again. And so for these people, lifetime is an amazing deal, and it is what they are looking for. They do not want to have to think about this again come in 3 years or 5 years or 1 year or whatever. They want to pay it once and be done with it. And if they're at a med spa, then they probably also don't want to do surgery. So lifetime is perfectly positioned for your higher income patients as well. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense as to who is going to be buying your lifetime packages. Now, most spas ask me, okay, Ivan, but lifetime, like that's going to be crazy. Like it's going to be essentially an infinite line item on my expenses that will just keep on growing up and up and up as I get more and more patients on lifetime. Now, first of all, it's kind of like this joke, right? Like, oh, I don't want to start going to the gym. I start going to the gym, but I don't want to get too big. I want to make sure I don't get too big. It's like, well, first let's make it look like you actually go to the gym, and then we can worry about you're not going to get too big by accident, right? And so let's first sell a few lifetime packages and see how it goes. Let's attempt to sell them. But really, there is 2 tricks when it comes to making, not only to make sure that you're not like your expenses aren't ballooning on lifetime, but also you actually start making a ton more money because you have to keep on servicing these patients. So first things first, obviously, you're not going to be selling lifetime, like the treatment itself, on a treatment that has extremely high costs, right? So like Botox wouldn't fit in this category. Filler, I mean, depending on what type of filler you have, I'd be kind of careful with it, but that wouldn't really fit here either, right? And so when it comes to lifetime, you want to do the things that have a really low cost of goods. And so cost of goods doesn't include payroll. So it's just like the cost of the materials to do the thing. So any type of energy products work really well. Obviously, like we do double chin dissolver, that's super cheap. That works really well. Semaglutide, probably not, depending on how you're doing it. If you're using a third party to like ship it to them, then definitely semaglutide wouldn't work. And so why it won't be too expensive for you is because typically the person needs like some pretty intense beginning part of the treatment, right? So like for body sculpting, like I'm not too versed in body sculpting and that type of stuff. We do chin dissolver. But from my understanding, I have a lot of spas that do it. And from my understanding, it's like, whatever, they're gonna need like 10 or 15 sessions in the beginning, and then they have like some maintenance sessions, right? And so the maintenance sessions is kind of like what you'd be worried about in this scenario, right? So the 10, 15 sessions in the beginning, like for us is 3 sessions, that's covered in your normal price package, right? So now you're just selling the package for a triple, that doesn't really matter too much. But for those maintenance sessions, the thing is that you have to think of it from the perspective of the patient, right? A really cool thing about Lifetime is that as long as you do a good job and you call your patients after the treatments on the next day and you ask them how it went and how they're doing, and you do all of the basic things that you need to do to retain patients, especially if you want to be a premium spa and sell extremely high ticket. If you're doing all those things, then you by definition are going to have a patient for life because they just dropped $18,000 at your spa to have this treatment for life. They are not going to go to another spa. They don't care if another spa does it for cheaper. They are now going to ignore every Instagram ad or Facebook ad that they see moving forward for this treatment because in their eyes, they already have it for free because they already paid for it a long time ago. And so that's one key thing to think about is that you now have a patient that is going to be walking into your door every single time they need their maintenance session, which is very, very powerful, right? And so if you think about it that way, really it's a blessing. And so it's a blessing as long as you have a system that can continuously make money from them as they're coming back, okay? So you might already know where I'm going with this. The key thing is that you wanna make sure that your cost of goods are really low or preferably close to non-existent, right? So that means that your only expense on fulfilling on this package, well, there's really gonna be 2 expenses. It's gonna be the rent of the room, obviously, like of the space, and then the payroll. And so for a lot of treatments in the med spa space, you don't really need to be spending that much, like unless you're in like California or whatever, you need like a doctor to do everything. You don't need to be spending that much. And even for the doctors, like it's for the med spa space, if you know how to hire, it's not crazy expensive. We're not talking like $100, right? We're talking maybe 50. And so how you want to position it is you want to create a structure, a system inside the spa for after patients are coming in for their maintenance. Let's just say the esthetician in this case, right? The person that's facilitating the treatment follows to consistently upsell the patients into new things. $1,000 here, $2,000 there. Bonus if you can think of another Lifetime thing to sell to them, right? And so this way, and what you pay the esthetician, just a commission. And so this way the esthetician can make way more money than the hourly if she sells the patients that are walking in for their maintenance. And you now have turned what could be a never-ending expense on your balance sheet into now its own back-end profit center. Pretty neat. Pretty neat if you ask me. And so when I've realized all of this, like it really broke my brain. Like it is just amazing what you can do with this. And so just to recap all the things that you want to make sure that you're doing, right? So you want to take your service that you already have really easy time selling. You want to make sure that service is, the cost of goods are really cheap. And then what you want to do is you want to increase the price, let's say double or triple. For beginners, I wouldn't go over 10,000 because that's like the limit of what Cherry generally approves for. I know Cherry can do like up to 60 or whatever, but like 10,000 seems to be quite common. If you really want to be safe, then you can do 7,500. Like 7,500 is is pretty common on the high end out of the high end stuff. That's like pretty common for Cherry and for Care Credit. So that's what we did when we first started out, was just trying it out at 7.5. And so you want to make a Lifetime version of your package. If you don't have it unlimited, I would recommend making an unlimited one as well. And then you have your normal price package. And so when you're pitching, you're going to say the triple price of the lifetime, right? And then you're going to discount it for the model call. And you're going to tell them that, to apply for the model call, they just have to scan this QR code, which will be like the Cherry QR code, right? And so then if they fight you on it, then you can drop it to the unlimited, and then you can drop it to the normal package. Cool. So you want to make sure you have low cost of goods on that service. And then first of all, I would just be selling these lifetimes. And then after that, you can start figuring out how you can make money on the back end. I really wouldn't be worried too much about making money on the back end right now, because first you got to start selling lifetime. So get used to selling, 5 to 10 or 20, whatever your current volume is. You should be able to sell around like 10 to 20% of your current patients that are buying. You should be able to convert them into lifetime, especially if the general rule of thumb is that 20% of your market is willing to pay 5 times more, right? I think it's like the Pareto distribution. So it's like, if you got 100%, you're probably making 80% of your money from the top 20%, right? And then that top 20%, 20% of that is willing to actually spend with you 4 or 5 times more. And so you keep on going smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that means that really, if you're selling the lifetime at like 3x, then you should easily be able to convert like 20% of the people, as long as you're actually pitching it. And so first do that, see how it changes your life. If you have a comment about it, put it in the comment section below. And once again, my name's Ivan. If you're interested in us taking a look at your business, seeing if you could work with us, we've made over $7 million for our spas with just one service. And that service costs like $50 to do on a $4,000 or lifetime package. It's been pretty nice. If you do injectable and you're in the US, then you can click the link below and schedule a call with us and see if it will work out.